Ever wonder what happened to those artists from 1979 who delivered some of the most memorable singles in music history? These are artists that left behind chart toppers and vanished almost overnight. Let's dive into the real stories behind 10 songs that ruled the airwaves but left their creators wondering what happened next. Robin Scott created M as a one-man electronic experiment in his London flat, using primitive synthesizers and a drum machine that cost more than most people's cars. The British musician had spent years in folk bands before discovering disco and new wave, teaching himself to program beats on equipment he barely understood. Scott recorded multiple versions of pop music before landing on the robotic vocal style that made it irresistible to DJs worldwide. Today, he's retired from music entirely, living quietly in France where he paints landscapes and avoids interviews about his brief moment of fame. Here's something the record labels didn't want you knowing back then. Scott allegedly stole the main synthesizer riff from a demo tape sent to him by an unknown musician who never received credit or royalties. The melody that made pop music a global hit was supposedly lifted note for note, and Scott's legal team made sure the original creator couldn't prove it in court. Frederick Knight wrote "Ring My Bell" for 11-year-old Stacy Lattisaw. But when her parents decided the lyrics were too suggestive, the song landed with Anita Ward instead. Ward was working as a school teacher in Memphis when she recorded the track during her summer break, never expecting it to become a worldwide phenomenon. The song's infectious bass line and Ward's powerful vocals created the perfect storm for disco domination. After her brief chart success, Ward returned to education and currently works as a school administrator, occasionally performing at nostalgia tours when the price is right. Ward has always insisted "Ring My Bell" was about answering the telephone, but Knight later admitted he wrote it as a thinly veiled reference to sexual satisfaction. The controversy helped fuel radio play, even though many stations had no idea what they were actually broadcasting during family listening hours. If you're enjoying these stories behind the hits, hit that like button and subscribe for more music history that they don't teach in school. Also, please share this with anyone who lived through these songs the first time around. Emile Stewart transformed Eddie Floyd's 1966 soul classic into "Knock on Wood," a disco powerhouse, while working as a backup dancer for various European acts. The American-born performer had moved to London seeking better opportunities and stumbled into recording when a producer heard her singing during rehearsal breaks. Her version stripped away the original's subtle guitar work and replaced it with pounding drums and sweeping strings that made dance floors explode across America. Stewart continued recording throughout the 1980s, with moderate success in Europe, though she never matched her early triumph stateside. The real drama happened behind the scenes, when Stewart's management allegedly paid radio programmers under the table to guarantee heavy rotation. Several DJs later claimed they received cash payments to play "Knock on Wood" during peak hours, a practice that was widespread but rarely discussed publicly until years later. Doug Fieger wrote "My Chirona" about his obsession with 17-year-old Chirona Alperin,
Give me some time, Chirona.
whom he met when she was still in high school and he was 25. The song's beat and memorable guitar solo made the Knack overnight sensations, but their rapid rise created unrealistic expectations for follow-up releases. Fieger's infatuation with Alperin lasted throughout the band's brief commercial peak, and she eventually became his girlfriend despite the 8-year age gap that raised eyebrows even in more permissive times. The band dissolved after their second album flopped, and Fieger spent his later years teaching music and dealing with multiple health issues before his passing in 2010. Critics accused the Knack of being Beatles copycats, but the real controversy centered on Fieger's pursuit of a teenager while he was well into his 20s. The song's lyrics contain barely concealed sexual references that somehow slipped past radio censors, making it one of the most inappropriate hits to dominate top 40 radio. Big Bank Hank of the Sugar Hill Gang literally stole his verses from Grandmaster Caz, copying the rhymes word for word without permission or payment.
It's not a test, I'm rapping to the beat.
The trio consisted of three unknowns recruited by Sylvia Robinson specifically to capitalize on the emerging hip-hop scene she witnessed at New York block parties. Master Gee and Wonder Mike wrote their own material, but Hank's entire contribution came from Caz's notebook, which he'd borrowed and never returned. The song's success launched hip-hop into mainstream consciousness, though the original creators in the Bronx received no recognition or compensation. Robinson died in 2011, taking many of the genre's founding secrets with her. The lawsuit that followed, Rapper's Delight, revealed how record executives deliberately excluded actual hip-hop pioneers from early commercial releases. Robinson's Sugar Hill Records reportedly blacklisted several Bronx DJs and rappers who complained about being ripped off, effectively erasing their contributions from hip-hop's official history. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss our deep dives into music history. And like this video if you're learning something new about these classic hits. Ricky Lee Jones wrote the song Chuckies in Love about Chucky Weiss, a mutual friend she shared with Tom Waits after Weiss moved to Denver following a complicated romantic situation. The jazz-influenced track showcased Jones's unique vocal style and storytelling ability, earning critical acclaim that her later releases never quite matched. Her eccentric personality and unconventional approach to interviews made her a media darling briefly, but she struggled with the pressures of sudden fame. Jones continues performing and recording, though her output has become increasingly sparse and experimental over the decades. The song caused a permanent rift between Jones and Waits when she revealed private details about their relationship circle without permission. Weiss himself reportedly felt betrayed by the unwanted attention the song brought to his personal life, and the three former friends never fully reconciled, despite their previous closeness. Paul Roberts formed the band Sniffin' the Tears after years of struggling in London's pub rock scene, finally achieving success with a song about relationship frustration and emotional distance. The track's moody guitar work and Roberts' distinctive vocals created an atmospheric sound that stood apart from typical late 70s fare. Despite the song's international success, the band never managed to duplicate its commercial appeal, leading to lineup changes and eventual dissolution. Roberts later worked as a session musician and occasionally reforms various versions of the band for European festivals. Roberts has admitted in interviews that Driver's Seat was inspired by his discovery of his wife's affair, making it one of the most personal revenge songs ever to hit the mainstream. The lyrics contain subtle references to the specific details of her betrayal, though most listeners interpreted them as general relationship commentary. The British soul singer Maxine Nightingale recorded her biggest hit after years of moderate success in the UK, creating a perfect blend of disco and R&B that American audiences couldn't resist. Nightingale had been performing since the early 70s, but Lead Me On represented her first real breakthrough in the United States market. The song's polished production and her powerful vocal delivery made it a staple on both pop and soul radio stations. She continued recording throughout the 80s with varying degrees of success, primarily focusing on the European market, where her career remained more consistent. Industry insiders claim Nightingale's record label deliberately limited her promotional appearances in America because they felt her natural British accent didn't match the soulful image her music projected. This marketing decision potentially cost her long-term success in the lucrative U.S. market. Bob Geldof wrote the song after reading about Brenda Ann Spencer's shooting spree at an elementary school in San Diego, where she killed 2 people and wounded 8 children. When asked why she committed the crime, Spencer simply replied, "I don't like Mondays."
I don't like Mondays.
Geldof's haunting interpretation of senseless violence struck a chord with audiences, though many American radio stations initially refused to play it due to the sensitive subject matter. The Irish band Boomtown Rats achieved greater success in Europe than America, partly due to this controversy, and Geldof later became famous for organizing Live Aid. Spencer herself has always maintained that Geldof never contacted her or her family before writing the song, profiting from her tragedy without permission. She's currently serving a life sentence and has repeatedly stated that the song misrepresents her mental state and the circumstances surrounding the shooting. Bobby Caldwell recorded What You Won't Do for Love. His record label initially hid his race from audiences, allowing many listeners to assume he was African American based on his soulful vocal style. The blue-eyed soul singer from Manhattan had been performing in jazz clubs before landing his recording contract, bringing a sophisticated musical approach to contemporary R&B. His smooth vocals and the song's memorable melody made it a crossover success that appealed to multiple demographics. Caldwell continued recording and performing throughout his career, maintaining a devoted fan base, particularly in Japan, until his passing in 2023. The deception regarding Caldwell's ethnicity was deliberate and calculated by his management, who believed R&B stations wouldn't play records by white artists. When his racial identity was eventually revealed, it sparked debates about authenticity in soul music that continue today, raising uncomfortable questions about marketing strategies in the music industry. These 10 songs prove that sometimes the most memorable music comes from the most unexpected places and people. The stories behind the hits reveal an industry where luck, timing, and sometimes questionable decisions determine who gets remembered and who gets forgotten. If you enjoyed uncovering the real stories behind these classic tracks, make sure you're subscribed and share this video with fellow music lovers. There are plenty more hidden histories waiting to be explored, and we'll keep digging up the truth behind the songs that shaped our lives.